They called in the man who glowed in the dark. But Eben Byers wasn't born cursed. He was born rich, handsome, and adored. A Yale graduate, a national golf champion, a face that made headlines, and a name that opened doors. But beneath the surface of champagne and socialites, a slow and silent poison crept through his veins. By the time the world realized what was happening, it was too late. He had become a monster, not by nature, but by design. Because the real horror, this wasn't an accident. It was sold to him, bottled, marketed, prescribed, and he wasn't the only one. This is the forbidden story of Eben Byers, the man whose glow was a warning and whose death was buried to protect the powerful. Eben McBurney Byers was born into the lap of industrial-age luxury. His father was a wealthy steel magnate. Eben had everything: prestige, money, and a reputation as a charming playboy athlete. In 1906, he won the U.S. Amateur Golf Championship. The newspapers fell in love. Women swooned. Men envied him. He was the archetype of American success. But in 1927, a seemingly minor injury would change the course of his life and end it in the most grotesque way imaginable. He hurt his arm on a train ride, nothing serious, but pain lingered, and that pain drove him to a bottle that promised miracles: Radithor. Radithor was the brainchild of William Bailey, a huckster in a lab coat. He claimed it was a scientific marvel: distilled water with radioactive radium, the cure for fatigue, impotence, depression, a modern elixir of life. Eben began drinking 3 bottles a day, not for weeks, not for months, but for years. He didn't know that inside his bones, radium was replacing calcium, eating him alive. But Radithor wasn't fringe science. It was FDA approved, advertised in reputable journals, endorsed by celebrities. No one questioned it. The first sign came quietly: toothaches, then jaw pain. Then the teeth began falling out. Byers' jawbone didn't just decay, it disintegrated. Holes formed in his skull. His bones became brittle. His body smelled of decay while he was still alive. Doctors called it radium necrosis, a term invented too late. By the time they stopped the Radithor, he had consumed over 1,400 bottles. And the man who once graced magazine covers now had to wear bandages over his face in public. The press was warned to keep quiet. His death would be inconvenient. By the end, he could barely eat. His skull was fractured. His bones were radioactive. He died in 1932. The government buried his body in a lead-lined coffin, not to honor him, but to contain the radiation. His case forced the U.S. government to reevaluate its stance on radioactive products. Radithor was banned. But William Bailey? He was never prosecuted. Instead, he moved on to sell new fake cures. And the world moved on. Quickly, quietly. Eben Byers' story is not just a horror story. It's a warning. A warning about blind faith in innovation. A warning about the cost of vanity. A warning about how the powerful protect their own, even when blood is on their hands. He was not the only victim, just the most visible. And his glow? It wasn't divine. It was death. The question is, what are we consuming today that tomorrow will look just as insane? Because history doesn't just repeat. Sometimes it glows. This is Buried. Files. Subscribe to uncover the stories they want you to forget.